Wait For It is a show about the way we feel about our bodies. Consequently, each episode may include references to gaining and losing weight, eating disorders, weight loss surgery, and weight stigma. If these topics are triggering to you, please take care while listening. We have links to support resources for anyone who may need them in our show notes. Wait for it.
Let's go back to 2012. I was like 25 years old. I was working a convention sales job at Men's Warehouse. So I was a suit salesman. So I was on my feet 8 to 10 hours a day in a suit and hard bottom dress shoes, which is by far like the worst thing you can ever be in on your feet for 8 to 10 hours a day. So I developed some hip pain.
That is the voice of Martinez Evans. He's a motivational speaker, an author, and a runner. However, before he was any of that, he was a suit salesman in pain, looking for answers.
I went to go see a doctor. Didn't just go see like a regular doctor. Went to go see like an orthopedic specialist. So like this doctor wasn't a doctor that I knew or I met or one of my traditional doctors. He was just a doctor that I seen from a list of doctors on their insurance list.
Martinez went in expecting to have a discussion with this medical professional about his hip pain, which he thought could be related to several different factors in his life. But as you could probably expect, the conversation he actually ended up having was pretty frustrating.
So I go there and I'm like, Doc, like I'm in pain, like my hip hurts. And I started to run down other stuff like, hey, like I used to play collegiate football, play football in high school. I don't know if that's the thing, just got this new job, so I'm on my feet a lot, but my hip hurts. And he was like, oh, like, I know why you in pain. And me, like, okay. Okay. You ain't touched me. You ain't put a stethoscope on me. You ain't did none of this, but you know why I'm in pain. So he was like, you're fat and you need to lose weight or you're going to die. Like he kept going. He's like, you got a stomach as a pregnant woman. You need to start walking along the track, all this other stuff.
This conversation sounded so familiar, I could have recorded it myself. But unlike my visit, where I retreated into myself and disassociated, Martinez got angry. And then he spoke up.
And like, I'm sitting there like, this motherfucker just called me fat. Like, I should punch him in the face. Like, I told him my hip hurt and he called me fat. So I go back at him. And I was like, yeah, like, screw that. Like, I'm gonna run a marathon. And he laughs at me. Tells me that's the most dumbest thing he had heard in all his years of practicing medicine. He said a few other like snide remarks, but then he goes on to like make the second declaration. If you try to run a marathon, you're going to die.
Martinez had heard enough. The doctor's words were insensitive and infuriating. He came in looking for relief from his hip pain and now was being mocked for his attempts to defy the perceived odds against him.
So, there was a lot of other choice words, a lot of 4-letter words I said to him, and I stormed out the doctor's office. And on my way home, I was ruminating, still pissed off, and I drove past a running shoe store. So I made a U-turn, went into the running shoe store and told them I'm gonna need shoes and I need them now. And that was like my origin story.
And what an origin story it was. Since that doctor visit, Martinez Evans has run 8 marathons and hundreds of other races at various distances. He's been on the cover of Runner's World magazine and was even featured in a Nike commercial. But this isn't a transformation story. Martinez would gain all of this notoriety in the running world while running slow and remaining fat. He lost some weight, but his intention was never to be a straight-sized runner. His intention was to prove that his body could be healthy and accomplish huge goals despite what most people think a runner should look like. So he started an online community called the Slow AF Run Club, and he wrote a book about his experiences. Now he travels the country speaking to audiences large and small about staying motivated to accomplish your goals no matter what they are. I followed Martinez's career for a while. I'd seen his interviews and have heard him talk quite a bit about his path into running and motivating others to accomplish their goals. His life is much bigger than running. He has a degree in marketing and exercise science and a master's in health promotion. He's dedicated to health in a way that doesn't exclude fat folks. Outside of his work, I was curious about him as a human, especially as a fat human who has suddenly been thrust into the spotlight as a spokesperson for a sport that doesn't necessarily feature body types like his. Today, we have a conversation about a different type of endurance race. Enduring people's opinions of your body while finding a path of self-care that works for you. I'm Ronald Young Jr., and this is Wait For It.
Waiting. What is really healthy?
Wait for it. The wait.
Run a marathon.
Wait for it. This season of Wait For It is brought to you by Big Fig Mattress. So I have a king-size Big Fig because I love to feel luxurious when I sleep, but also when I'm just hanging out, watching television, scrolling my phone, or when I have company over. This mattress is ready to be supportive. Whether you describe yourself as fat, fluffy, plus-sized, or even big-boned, this mattress is going to hold you up. I was apprehensive to get one at first, but Big Fig offers a 120-night trial just to make sure it's the right mattress for you. And trust me, it won't take you that long to decide that this mattress is the one. Go to the link in our show notes and take the Bed Builder quiz to get exclusive discounts on your new Big Fig. Hello, Wait For It listeners. I hope you're enjoying the show. And I want to invite you to check out another OhitsBigRon studio show called Leaving the Theater. Leaving the Theater is a television and film review podcast that started with me reviewing movies as I walked out of the theater immediately after seeing them. It's now expanded to include me reviewing television and streaming titles on my couch as well. These are the freshest take on what we just watched, and it's a lot of fun. On each episode, I talk with my movie-loving friends or colleagues from other podcasts, and we rate whatever we watched from 1 to 5 stars. If you're an overthinker like me, you'll enjoy agreeing and disagreeing with my analysis. Again, that's Leaving the Theater, available everywhere you listen to podcasts. Wait for it. Let me ask you, did you ever encounter that doctor again? Like, have you gone back with like all of your medals on at once, or brought the Runner's World magazine to him, or showed up?
No.
Why not?
Hey, I don't even live in that location anymore. So like that was like 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. I seen him that one day, and as Jay-Z say, grand opening, grand closing. Like, I ain't got to go back to you. I'm gonna go where I'm celebrated. Because the thing is like when it was all said and done, like I still had hip pain. Like, yeah. So I had to go find another doctor, and that doctor diagnosed me with like hip bursitis, and he was like, oh, this is easy. Like, you just need 8 weeks of physical therapy.
That's upsetting. Yeah. Because it's like I've had that experience. Mm-hmm. Like going into the doctor and saying, I have this problem, and they're like, well, let's be honest, you are fat. Mm-hmm. So why don't you? And it feels like we talk about this, like fat folks talk about this with each other, and we say this to our straight size friends. Yeah. And I don't know if you ever got this same reaction from a straight size friend where they're like, well, you are fat, as opposed to like, nah, that doctor's wild. Like, what types of reactions do you get from people when you told them that story before?
Oh, it's a mixed bag. Yeah, I did definitely have family and friends that was like, yeah, you are fat though. And I was like, but that don't mean nothing. Like, I played football. Like, I still lift weights. Like, what does that really mean? And that was like before I even had the terminology that I do now and all the knowledge that I do now, to be like none of that really makes sense. Like, it doesn't. So, luckily enough for me, I did have the wherewithal to like, you know what, I'm gonna go. I think for a lot of like plus size people, right? Like we've been beaten on our whole lives, right? Like I can remember the first time I've ever been called fat. First time where a girl laughed at me because I had man titties or boy titties, right? So like I understand that. And to go through that like your whole life you start to feel like you're the problem, not necessarily knowing like the system is the problem.
Yeah. How do you like in terms of like your own reconciliation in your mind? I mean, everybody doesn't know who you are. Do you still get like reactions from folks when you tell them that you're a runner if they don't know already, or and maybe even early on when you had already accomplished a couple of marathons, were you getting like reactions from people that were like, oh, really? Oh,
yeah. Living in New England, you have the condescending. Oh, good for you.
Oh
good
my
for
God,
you, fat man.
yes,
Good for you. Oh, how much weight you lost?
Mhm.
So yeah, I've had that, and I still had it. Luckily, my legacy is starting to precede myself. That people see me now, and it's like, oh, like he's the dude. But
Yeah.
I still occasionally get somebody that's like, you know what you should do? You should take running more seriously and lose weight and train to run faster. That's what you need to do.
So I've ran a marathon. I ran one in 2016 in the Marine Corps Marathon here in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
My dad had ran the Honolulu Marathon years ago when I was a kid, back when we were stationed in Hawaii.
Okay.
So it was back in the 90s sometimes. My goal is someday to run the Honolulu Marathon just like my dad did, just to be like, we both did it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I did it. My goal was just to make the cutoff. That was my only goal. I didn't care about time after that. When I was training, I'm out there on the trail running. I've been running for weeks now. I'm like feeling good about it, all of that. Running out there, still running into runners who are like looking at you, be like, hey,
yeah,
good, we're running. I'm actually running, Martinez. I'm out here running. And they're like, hey, good for you. I'm like, do you think I need your encouragement now? Like, well, I'm already out here. Like, you don't need to do any of that. and I think it is all based on like stereotypically what people expect to see when they see someone running.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk to me a little bit about like stereotypically what people expect to see when they see a runner?
Oh, so first, white. We can just start there.
Correct.
We're both big black men talking about running.
Yes.
Yes. Skinny. Definitely said white. Women. Definitely said white again. I'm
sensing a trend. I don't know if you can sense it. I'm sensing a trend. I don't know.
And like people who've like ran their whole lives. So like they ran track or they ran cross country or things of that sort, which is, kind of almost unfortunate for like kids who grew up in the hood like myself. Like I grew up on the east side of Detroit. Like there was no coaches being like, oh, like you should go try out for the cross country team. I don't even think our high school even had a cross country team. It was more of like, oh boy, you fast. Like you should run track. Or like the football players who are trying to get faster, like the coaches go put them on the track team and like train to get faster. They look at me and it's like, well, here are these still ass balls that you can go try to throw. And it's like,
go throw them.
Like, what the fuck you mean you want me to do shot put or discus? Like, you want me to throw a frisbee? Like, what is this? So, like, those are the things that you experience, like, as a person of size, but also a person who grew up in the hood as well, that you don't necessarily get. Also, like, thinking about the notion of runners or traditional runners, one of the things I've noticed is that most running shoes are in predominantly high socioeconomic neighborhoods. So, like, you don't even see a running shoe store in the hood.
No, it's true. If I wanted to go, I live in Alexandria, Virginia, and there's a county side and a city side, and I'm thinking about the running stores right now, and I'm fairly certain that all the ones that I know that exist, if it's not attached to a sporting goods store, those are spread out more equitably, but if it's not attached to a sporting goods store, I know exactly where those running shoe stores are, and
they're not.
That is, I just now thought of that.
So, like, running shoe stores are not even in neighborhoods that serve me.
Why pick the most like fat phobic and kind of like arguably race exclusive sport? You know what I mean? And I only say it because I used to do CrossFit, so I know what's up. Okay, like I did. You already know.
How do white people say? White people, whoa!
But I did CrossFit for a while, and I remember when I was doing CrossFit, and this was pre Trayvon Martin. This was pre like Obama I just got into office. You know what I mean? So this was like early on. I was doing CrossFit in maybe 2010 or something like that. and nobody was woke. Even CrossFit hadn't gone through its reckoning or anything like that. And so I remember in those days always feeling like a little bit ostracized, or like not necessarily as included as I felt like I could have been, which was discouraging. And especially, and I've not always been as big as I am now. I was a lot smaller then, but I was still bigger than other people. And so being bigger than other people is still like, there were people saying like, well, once we get that weight off you, you're going to really perform. And I'm like, why don't we just like focus on things that I do well? Like heavy lifting. Like, why don't we? I don't care about running. I don't care about doing pull-ups or any of that stuff. I want to outlift everybody here. Can we just focus on that? Is that a problem? So I guess my question is like, why even go to a sport that doesn't necessarily want you?
Man, that should be the thesis of my next book. But like, as one of my good friends says, like, you know, they only expect black people to chase the ball like a dog and put them in baskets, or chase balls and run them down the field. So, you know, as a person of color, like those are the things that you're more or less expected to do. So like when the doctor was like, oh, you need to go walk around the track, like the sheer fury that I had for this motherfucker A calling me fat, but B, him just trying to like, oh, you need to start walking and all this other stuff. Like I was pissed off. I was like, no, I'm gonna go run.
Yeah.
And not just I'm gonna run, like you gonna take it to one extreme, I'm gonna take it to the other extreme then. You calling me fat and I'm gonna be dead? Well, fuck it then. Like, let's go run this marathon so I can really show you what's up.
Yeah.
So I think that's more or less how I got into it. And I kind of just put my big foot where my mouth was at. Like, spite is a great motivator.
It is.
But I was like, oh no, like I'm gonna do this. Like I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And then come to find out, like, oh, you're not welcomed here.
Yeah.
You get all those things of me living in various neighborhoods and being police getting called on me because it's like, oh, there's a black suspicious man running in the middle of the night with a headlamp on and bright green running gear, but he looks very suspicious out there. And me get pulled over multiple times and getting slammed on police hoods, even though I have a headlamp, all type of high vis reflective gear on.
I'm sorry.
And a hydration pack with 3 liters of water on it.
But I guess for me, even being in those spaces, I mean, feeling unwelcome, like where you are now, we know the tendency, and this is a weight show, and I hate to, it's hard for me not to talk about race, but I got to talk about race.
Well, you fat and you black, man. What you expect? It's a part of your life.
What am I supposed to do? Like, yeah, exactly. What am I supposed to do? But I guess the curiosity side of me immediately says to you, like, even now after getting all this acclaim and all this, and like kind of being held up as an example, or even for this moment of body positivity, do you ever get nervous or concerned that one day they'll just wake up and be like, all right, we done with that. Back to conventional runners.
Yeah. Like shit. We just got a little bit of body positivity. Now y'all talking about Ozempic? Like, and it's like, well, you gonna do that? And it's like people's stomachs are getting blocked up. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Do I want to participate in that? So like, yeah, it's one of those things that I'm still holding on for dear life. Yeah. Because you have these other trends that are starting to come out, such as hair run chic, which I think is a dumb thing. Like, what do you mean stupid. You want to be so skinny that you want to look like you've been on heroin? Like, that's by far the worst drug you ever want to be on.
Yeah, and people that are talking about it are people that have never even like experienced or been around someone who has ever been on heroin. No. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, what are we talking about here? Speaking of Ozempic, or speaking of any of that, I think I've noticed that too with colleagues and friends who have asked, like, "Hey, you gonna get on Ozempic now that you could just take a shot and be skinny? Are you gonna get on it?" And my answer is still unequivocally no. And it sounds like yours is too. But what do you think about all of that?
Let's talk about the system. I think that like the system is made to do this, right? And I think it's very unfortunate that a lot of people fall into these traps. This is where I get my bag of like marketing, right? Like I have a degree in marketing, really understanding like marketing, only thing you're really doing is getting at people's insecurities in order to sell them something.
Yes.
And I think with the weight loss industry, it's highly profitable because it's pills, powders, and stuff that really comes at like a low upfront or production cost. that you just sell to people at a very astronomical price.
Yeah.
So like, of course they're going to continue to fight to make those monies and make those profits. And like, I think that's one of the things you can just see is like how they've taken like a diabetes medication and turned it to a weight loss thing. And then when you actually like look at the science, like it's not really promising.
Yeah.
That's where my bag at of like I have a degree in exercise science. I have a master's in health promotion, did research in obesity, and like really understanding like the whole background of like 99% of all diets don't work.
Yeah.
And as soon as you get off the diet, you gain that weight back.
Yeah.
And like to really understand like scientifically, there's this notion, this term called adiposity rebound, which means like fat cells, right? So like as a person gain weight, the fat cells fill up and then like they develop more fat cells in order to deposit that fat. So scientifically, like once you lose weight, those fat cells that you gained does not go away.
Yeah.
So they're still there. And then the thing about fat cells and adiposity rebound, and then this notion called homeostasis, which is the fact of like wanting to go back to like what the status quo is.
Yeah.
And if you've been a fat person for a very particular period of time, the status quo is not skinny. It's actually your size.
Yeah.
So then like your body is sending like signals of, oh, you're starving, you need to eat and all this other stuff in order to get back to that status quo. So like, that's why you see like the stuff with Biggest Losers, or sometimes even with people who've like had weight loss surgery and they've gained back that weight because it's all these other signals that are going against you. And this is just me like highly simplifying it. So like, don't use this like medical advice, but like this is true stuff though.
We'll be right back with more from Martinez after a quick break. Wait for it. This season of Wait For It is brought to you by Big Fig Mattress. I've been sleeping on a Big Fig for nearly 2 years now, and let me tell you, this mattress is fantastic. As a bigger guy, I've had problems in the past with mattresses that sag over time, but that's not an issue I've had with Big Fig. From the first time I laid on it, I could tell the difference in support. It held me up without being uncomfortable or hard. It has an extra firm mattress edge that gives a bit of a larger sleep surface. It also has something called thermogel cooling technology that, as a person who is almost always running hot, keeps me nice and cool while I sleep. But also, Big Fig is now more than a mattress company. I recently got a hold of their sheets, pillows, and my personal favorite, a big old fluffy adjustable body pillow. Yes, I said adjustable. You can remove some fluff and make it as soft and squishy as you would like. All of these items are now available on the Big Fig website, and you can bundle multiple items and get discounts as you redo your entire sleep system. Go to the link in our show notes and take the Bed Builder quiz to get exclusive discounts on your new Big Fig. Wait for it. What does it even mean to be a runner who's not seeking to change their body? Because that's hard for people to digest. Like everything you said, knowing all those facts, but you're out there. And even me, I walk every day and I've been doing push-ups. I'm up to 70 a day, but I don't really care about like weight loss necessarily. Right. So how do you reconcile that to people saying like, I want to run distances, I want to challenge myself, I want to encourage other people to run, but I do not care about weight loss?
It's really a conversation about like what is really healthy, right? Like, are you concerned because I don't have the aesthetic of looking healthy, or are you really concerned because you know I'm not healthy, right? And I think for a lot of people, it's really the aesthetic. Oh, you look good, so you must be healthy.
Yeah. Or
like you got abs, so you must be healthy. And it's like, okay, so what about the person who's taking steroids? Like, what about the person who has an eating disorder? Historically, look at me and say, oh, like you're a person of size, so you must be eating all these calories and just sitting around the house or like laying on a couch. And it's like most of the time, like most of the fat people don't know, it's like shit, they rarely eat.
You're right. I mean, I think about myself and other people that I've been around that are fat, it's like if we told you what our eating habits were, it's like for me, I'm like feast or famine.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I either haven't eaten all day and I had some corn chips, or I had like one massive meal and I'm like, I'm good for the rest of the day or whatever, you know what I mean? And trying to find the in-between place, especially as like a unmarried a man with no kids. Like I remember when I was dating someone, every now and then she'd be like, "Hey, what are we gonna do for dinner?" She'd like bring that up and it'd be like collaborative. But when you're by yourself, it's like it hits a little different. So when you talk about like the eating habits of fat folks generally, I think it is those assumptions that make it so like tricky in terms of like, what is the answer?
Right.
If we're being honest, straight size folks have the same types of eating habits. You know what I mean? Everybody's not out here doing 5 meals a day and the snacks and every 2 hours and all that stuff. But nobody wants to admit that there might be like a genetic cause for any of this.
No, because then you're not able to sell that.
Yeah.
Like you can't sell something that's happening at a cellular level that you have no control over.
Yeah.
But what you can sell is, y'all fat motherfuckers need to get off y'all lazy asses. Stop being sloth-like, eat some fucking broccoli, chicken, and rice, and go run. And do that every day for the next 90 days and watch the pounds melt off your ass.
The other thing is like being a person who's done that. You've gotten off the couch, you're doing the work. So, I mean, I guess, how do you feel? Talk about like being at the doctor's office 10 years ago, feeling away. And I'm sure you've gone through the physical therapy of hip bursitis and now you're a runner. How do you feel now in terms of the differences between then and now?
It's still a fight. I think it's still a fight. And like, as much as people like put me on this platform, you're like, oh, body positivity and blah, blah, blah. Like, the medical industry is still a fight. So for example, like, I have an older mother, like she had me in her 40s.
Okay.
So like even having these conversations with my sister who's like in her 50s, like, oh, mom needs to like stop eating and like she need to get up and like go lose weight, yada, yada, yada. And like, I had to stand up for my mom and talk to my sister. Like, like mom was just with me in Florida for a vacation and like, she didn't really eat that much. So it's like, that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah.
So it's like, is it the Hermes? Is it like, it has to be something bigger than that.
Yeah.
And then for me, like, to be able to advocate for yourself in these doctor's office and understand like, oh, he's just like somebody else who just went to school. But like, we don't know what grades he got, right? He just passed the test.
Yeah.
And like having these arguments or debates, a great example is like, since we're done with COVID and like, I'm not anti-vaxxer because I got it, right? But like I got a vaccine, and with this vaccine, it stated for a specific population, they got inflammation of the heart, like myocarditis in a certain age group. But I still got myocarditis. So I'm trying to talk to my doctor like, yo, I think this has something to do with the vaccine. Like, I've read the research. This is associated with people between like 18 and 25. And for him to be like, well, you're out the right age group. So like, it can't be that. It just must be like you're fat and like you need to lose weight and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And it's like, do you not see the data? Like, I've been running in this fat body for the past 10 years.
Yeah.
And this has not been a problem. I played collegiate football. I played high school football. Like, this has not been a problem. And you're going to tell me it's just because I'm fat?
A documented problem at that.
Yes. And it's like, nah, I can't accept that. I see medical professionals and doctors as like overtrained nail techs. They're on every corner, and you got good ones and you got bad ones. Yeah. And guess what? You sometimes you don't never go back to the bad ones. Some go there and it's like, I told you not to cut my cuticles. You cut my cuticles. I ain't coming back to your ass. You made my cuticles bleed. I'm not coming back. And I'm telling everybody, nah, don't go there. They make your cuticles bleed.
Yeah.
But we don't do the same thing about doctors. Like, we don't be like, oh, you don't go there because he fat shame.
But where does that end up with you? Like, I want to know about you. Like, how do you feel about yourself now? Like, in the words of the prophet Kendrick Lamar, I love myself, right? That's great.
Are there times where I have to battle with these messages? Like, yeah. But I think I'm able to ground myself and like take a step back to like really like think about this, right? And it's something for me that it's a constant battle. It's a battle between like the head and heart, right? The head is like, this. But like the heart is like, but look at the commercials. Like, look at the people running and joyful. Like, dude, don't you want that? And the head is like, you've done that before and that shit don't work. And it's like, but look at the people. So it's one of those battles. But overall, like, I love myself. I love where I'm at. I love when I'm running. I love when I'm being active. And I think like people can't take that away from me. And I'm glad that I went through the journey in order to educate myself, unlearn and relearn stuff so that I can use their information against them.
I love that. There's something you say early in your book. I believe it's on page 1, if I'm not mistaken. And you talk about mile 19. And you say something like, kind of pumping yourself up on mile 19. And that really resonated with me because when I ran my only marathon was mile 19 that I had this very real thought, which was that I am going to be running for the rest of my life. I'm never going to be not running again. This is now my reality. I mean, I might as well keep going. I've already passed the cutoff. They can't shuffle me off the course. I'm going to finish this no matter what. What's it like now? Do you feel like you've improved as a runner, as an athlete in terms of where you were before? Or do you feel like you've never, that's not been your goal? Because if it's knowing that it's not weight loss, improving as an athlete, is that something that's part of your goals moving forward?
Absolutely. But it's just not like improving as like a runner. I think overall it's just improving to be the best version of me that I can possibly be. Right. Because I don't know if I want to be running all this time. Like I might want to get my big ass on a bike. So like, shit, I might want to get my big ass in the water. Like shit.
Yeah.
And I think all that stuff is useful going down the line. But like, yes, overall, it's more or less like, how can I become a better athlete and a better me? Because me being physically active is a part of my best self. Like regardless if I'm running for a race or like trying to get a PR, like me, just being active in my everyday life just makes me overall better.
Do you ever recognize what you're doing as a form of protest? Because like what you're talking about, you literally just, I said you want to improve as an athlete. You like, I'm running to be my best self. Like this, I want to just repeat back to you some of the things you said in our discussion. You said most runners are white and thin. You are not. You said that people are running to lose weight. You are not. You are not running to improve necessarily athletically. You're running to be your best self. You are doing this sport and you are doing it in a very specific way that you like. Do you ever recognize that consciously as a form of protest?
I've been told I'm a contrarian here and there.
Yeah.
I've never necessarily seen it that way. I've always had like some type of issue with authority and like making my own rules. Remembering something a family member told me very long ago, and that's everybody's just going by rules that somebody else made up. You may not know who these people are or where these rules came up, but somebody made them up and you're following them. And for me, like I've been more or less like living that truth. Like when I've started running and doing the things that I do, because like all this shit is made up. Like if we're just gonna participate to like made up stuff, like I would rather it be from my own imagination, so I can at least have fun with it than like going by somebody else made up dreams.
10 years ago, you saw your doctor and all of this happened since. And I don't think you could have imagined that it went the way that it went for you. And I'm proud of you as somebody just watching from the sidelines, that discovered your story and said, yes, thank you for doing this. This is important. What's the next 10 years? Like, do you have goals for it, or where would you say in 10 years you'd like to be?
Ron, this is something I'm having existential crisis. Talk to my therapist about this shit right now, man. And the reason I say that is because like it's been 10 years to come up to this moment, right? And the conversation I've been having with my therapist lately is like, I've accomplished all of my goals for 2023. Like literally every goal that I wanted, like I accomplished them. And like I'm sitting there in 2024 with a blank sheet of paper being like, I don't know what goes to roll over because there ain't none.
Yeah.
So it's a gift and a curse of like, yes, I've accomplished these goals, but then it's like, well, shit, like I need to start thinking about like what else do I want to do that don't necessarily I can like check off. And I think for me, like this is where really thinking about like, all right, yes, my journey is great. How else can I like lead the pack in order to like make real change? Am I growing the Slow AF Run Club to the point where like we can have our own races and we can make our own rules up? Or am I trying to get on the board of these races so I can change it from the in between? Or like, am I pivoting to another sport? Like, am I saying, you know what? Running, check. Like, next, powerlifting. I'm going to go break some records. I'm still trying to figure that out. But like, the beautiful part is that the world is my oyster and it'll come to me.
Martinez, thank you so much for being on Wait For It.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
You can learn more about Martinez Evans by visiting his website, martinezevans.com. And if you're looking to do more running yourself and want to join his community and get tips, you can visit slowafrunclub.com or look for his book, Slow AF Run Club, The Ultimate Guide for Anyone Who Wants to Run, available everywhere books are sold. Wait For It is a production of OhitsBigRon Studios and is a proud member of Radiotopia from PRX, a network of independent, creator-owned, listener-supported podcasts. Discover audio with vision at radiotopia.fm. This episode was produced and written by me, Ronald Young Jr., with editing support from J.C. Howard. Our story editor is Sarah Deely. Sound design and mixing from the Reverend John Delore of Starlight Diner. Show art by Heather Wilder. Episode art by Andy J. Pizza. Theme music from Jey Red, with additional music from Mass Potential, The Artist DT, and the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. Special thanks to Martinez Evans. You can follow me on Instagram, Threads, X, and TikTok at OhitsBigRon. That's at OhitsBigRon. You can find out more about this show and other OhitsBigRon Studios shows by following us on Instagram at OhitsBigRon Studios. If you have a story about weight you'd like to share with us, shoot us an email at weight@OhitsBigRon.com. That's WEIGHT@OhitsBigRon.com. Wait For It will be back next week. Thanks for listening. Wait For It.
At that point, I really wanted to just give him a deep tissue massage on his face with my fist.
That's not a massage. I don't think that's a massage.
Just pulsing. Just on his face, speed bag.
Yeah, you got to do it. This season of Wait For It is brought to you by Big Fig Mattress. Now, I know there are other mattress companies out there, but Big Fig is specifically designed for fat folks. They've made a quality mattress that will last 20 years with a full replacement warranty and a 120-night trial just to make sure it's the right mattress for you. You know, sometimes when I travel, after a few nights of sleeping on those hotel beds, coming home to my Big Fig mattress is a vacation from my vacation. And listeners, you can have that vacation too. Go to the link in our show notes and take the Bed Builder quiz to get exclusive discounts on your new Big Fig.
Radiotopia from